In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Hello everyone, I am Burak, and the game I will talk about in this video is Elden Ring. The reason why I chose a game like Elden Ring is that it is a game where almost all of the components with high percentages in my gamer profile expectations are met. Elden Ring is released earlier this year and recently won the Game of the Year award, and it is the open world game that defines the genre for me. Elden Ring is an open world action role-playing game played in a third-person perspective with gameplay focusing on combat and exploration. It features elements similar to those found in other games developed by From Software, such as the Dark Souls series, Bloodborne, and my personal favorite, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Open world areas are explorable using the character's mount, Torrent, as the primary mode of transportation, along with the ability to fast travel outside of combat. Throughout the game, we can encounter a handful of NPCs and enemies, including the demigods who rule each main area and serve as the game's main bosses. Aside from open world areas, Elden Ring also features hidden dungeons such as catacombs, tunnels, and caves where players can fight bosses and gather helpful items. For a quick summary for the game's story, early on in our journey to repair the Elden Ring, we encounter a maiden named Melina. As we are maidenless like all Tarnished, Melina offers to act as our maiden, granting us the ability to turn the collected runes into strength, as well as giving us her steed Torrent. She does this under the condition that the player, Tarnished, brings her to the Erdtree, the home of the Elden Ring. Melina later takes the Tarnished to Round Table Hold, a gathering place for other Tarnished seeking to repair the Elden Ring. We then encounter various events and NPCs in the Round Table Hold as the story progresses further. The Hold's benefactor, the Two Fingers, instructs us where we can see the instructions on the map to collect the Great Runes and bring them to the Erdtree, where they can be used to repair the Elden Ring. Although the open world completely frees the player, the fact that the game manages to send you wherever it wants thanks to its level design and concept design is something most of the open world games fail to do. Allowing us to live our own story on a small scale in a universe much larger than us, both makes us feel free and pushes us to learn how big can events get in the universe we exist. The fact that this part of Elden Ring impressed me a lot shows that the immersion component in my gamer profile is in the right proportion. The story of the game is embedded in the game and not given direct to the player triggers a sense of curiosity. It is quite satisfying to have a role in this story and influence its course, which is scattered in different parts of a huge map. The motivations of the NPCs we spoke to were well written, and we can understand why they are acting in a certain way. In addition, I can say that main story bosses is one of the best written characters I have ever seen. As a player who loves story-based RPGs as well as games like Elden Ring, shout out to Disco Elysium, One Tarnished to Another, I like to consume in-depth stories. Therefore, finding and compiling story pieces myself in Elden Ring was a pretty enjoyable activity for me. As mentioned in the fantasy section, one of the subtitles of the immersion component being a Tarnished in Limgrave, as a player who likes to be someone else while playing a game, to be thrown into another universe, having come to life again, shows that the game also aims to make you feel like this. There are many reasons why the Elden Ring universe can be immersive, such as characters with deep backgrounds, the world built with a beautiful aesthetic, and the extremely interesting main story. In addition to the characters we interacted in the open world, the main story bosses also have their own stories. For example, the first time I played Elden Ring, Margit, the Fell Omen cinematic, and His self-presentation had a magical effect on me. With Margit, we are encountering the first major boss in the game. Sitting at one of the towers of a huge castle when he spoke, I was able to hear his voice pretty clearly, even though there was a great distance between us. Although he is much in a higher place than I am, and he jumps and starts a fight with me to try to show me that I am ambitious for nothing, signals me that I am in a pretty terrifying world. While realizing that I am in a world like this, I can mention about the percentage of the mastery component in my gamer profile. Souls-like games made by From Software have always been famous for how difficult they are, but they have the mechanics and storytelling that will make me and many players like me accept this challenging gaming journey with a calming feeling, fulfillment. We can say the same is true in Elden Ring. We are trying to gain a final place by getting stronger step by step in a world where it is very difficult to live and where almost everyone is stronger than us. While thinking about different kinds of strategies and trying to implement these strategies in this effort to gain a place, the game also uses whatever it has against us. Various traps, enemies in blind spots, challenging platformer levels, and iconic boss fights of Souls-like games. These elements remind you to stay alert every time you play this game, no matter how fascinated you are by its visuals while playing Elden Ring, and if you won't, you will pay heavy penalties. For example, when we die, we drop the runes we use while shopping and leveling up. If we can't go back to the place where we died and die again without getting the runes, this time we lose our runes permanently. This mechanic advises us not to stray with too many runes on us, because we are in a dangerous universe. So our death can happen unexpectedly, and our last few hours of effort can be wasted in an instant. The components of the RPG element in Elden Ring and the impact of the encounters on the gameplay increases the replayability of the game. The power of different features and weapons against different enemies makes us think about the next moves instead of attacking enemies directly. As a player who enjoys dealing with such calculations, I had a lot of fun dealing with these mechanics of the game. Playing with different builds and weapons many times, I found the game somewhat refreshing. Subsequently, my strategies could also vary according to the classes I played. For example, with the Fate build, I was focusing on the weapons with good Ashes of Wars and also good Fate modifiers, while with the Dexterity build, I could play the game without paying too much attention to weapons, because I could play very effectively by increasing the level of the weapon I started the game. This habit of my gameplay justifies the high percentage on strategy component in my gamer profile. Another thing I love about Elden Ring is the notes on the ground, which is a type of passive social interaction. Thanks to these notes, I escaped death many times or especially died because of the notes. I found treasures that I had overlooked, and this list can go about an hour. One of the best features that allow me to have fun while playing alongside the notes was cutting bosses with my friends or other players. When I get stuck on a boss too much and now it starts to get frustrating, really frustrating, I can make it a little easier to cut the boss by calling others for help. Besides the gameplay, I've always loved the community of Souls-like games. It has always made me happy to be a part of this community, as the fanbase created by From Software consists of players who like to scrutinize games and do not avoid difficult challenges. Seeing the lore pieces that I could not find myself and the discoveries of different people has always increased the depth of the game in my eyes. While the developers leave clues in the depth of the game for someone to search for, and finding these clues can satisfy me, the fact that other people like the same things and play with the same enthusiasm and makes me more turned up about the game, and communicating with them makes Elden Ring's overall gaming experience better. For my last sentence, with its hard and fun to oppose bosses, spectacular world building, a story full of conflicts, and my favorite, Margit the Fell Omen, Elden Ring will always have a special place on the catalog of games I've played. Thank you for listening. Peace!